Hi everyone, it's Jo, otherwise known as the Little Bean on Instagram, TikTok, and now here on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about a question I get asked very often, and it is requests for tips and tricks on how to shop for pre-loved luxury items. I'll be sharing some of the reasons I shopped pre-loved, where I look to shop for these items, and also some tips and tricks to make sure you're having the best shopping experience. Along the way, I'll also be sure to share some of my best finds, to include some high-end luxury items such as these that I found for under $100. So without further ado, let's get started. I want to touch on the benefits of shopping pre-loved. One of the big drivers for me is the cost. So a lot of the new releases coming out from the luxury boutiques have come out at astronomically high prices. And what I've discovered is you can find a lot of pre-loved gems for much better prices than you would find in the current boutiques. Secondly, oftentimes, luxury brands will discontinue styles in favor of new releases for their seasons. As such, if there is a piece that you're looking for that just isn't sold in stores anymore, pre-loved is naturally the only place that you might be able to find some of those gems. Another driver may be the quality of the items. I know that a lot of discussion is in the luxury community about how the older vintage items just had more quality and thought put into the production of making those products. And so often, if you buy the older versions, you may find that you appreciate some of the quality aspects of the pieces from those times. Another reason I love just perusing pre-loved is because I can discover a lot of styles that I've never seen before. And a number of these bags here were things that I would have never thought to look for and happened to stumble across them, given they were likely discontinued items. So it's also a great way to find and discover new styles that you may not have tried previously. Finally, there is much to say about shopping pre-loved from an environmental standpoint of, looking for items that are already currently in existence so that you aren't adding to a further environmental footprint. So some tips for when you're searching for items on pre-loved markets. Sometimes it's very overwhelming because there are so many options and ways to find things. I would say if you know the item that you're looking for and you know the name of it, obviously you can just search that way. But let's say you have a general idea of what the bag looks like, but you don't know the name of it. I would definitely recommend doing image searches. So you can do image searches on Google, and like I said, you can also do them on eBay. Sometimes I start with Google because then I can try and find the name of the item and then search it through other places. But once you find the name of the item, then that helps you to get an idea of the item's availability. And again, once I find out what that item is, I like to look personally for Japanese resellers that have it, or seeing if I can find it on one of those larger luxury resellers websites. I also save searches very often on eBay for items that I'm contemplating, or just so that if it happens to pop up on the pre-loved market again, if it's not currently available, I can get notified and take a look at it. So in terms of tips to look at when you're actually in the process of purchasing, the first thing I would do is when I am looking at new sellers, I want to make sure that they have a high number of transactions and a high rating, because obviously these are the indicators that they are reliable sellers. I often also take the time to look at their entire storefront to get a feel for the other types of items that they are selling. If you have someone that is selling a luxury Louis Vuitton bag and then the rest of their storefront is made up of Walmart clothing, nothing against Walmart, I'm just saying it's two totally different markets, and it would make me wonder, is this seller really a specialized person for selling luxury items? Or I often take a look at storefronts because if they are selling an item that looks remotely fake to me, and often I feel like the biggest giveaway for when an item is fake is the gift box. If they show the box, you can often just tell when it just looks a little off. And so if I see any of that, I'm not going to purchase from that seller, because I don't care what the image looked like in the item they are trying to sell me. If there is even a chance they're selling something fake anywhere else on their storefront, I'm not going to consider it. Also, I would look for is to see if those exact images are being used in anyone else's listings. So if you happen to find two resellers and they both have the exact same pictures of this exact same item, who actually has this item, and is this the actual item you'll receive? So if that happens sometimes, and it can happen where, you know, it might be that they're both trying to sell an item that is currently on auction from a mass reseller or something. I have seen that happen before. Or, you know, they're brands that are all connected, like sister brands and working together. But anytime I see that happen, I always reach out to the seller and say, hey, are the pictures of the actual item I will receive, yes or no? And then if for some reason the item isn't what you were supposed to receive, you'll have those receipts that you can give to eBay to say, hey, I didn't get what I asked for. Again, another tip is I would recommend that you shop through PayPal as an added level of protection, because if you purchase something and it isn't what you were supposed to receive and you can't work it out with the seller or with the reselling app, you would still have PayPal to potentially help get involved to get your money back. Finally, if you are not a luxury fanatic or a collector that's very familiar with the brands, or even if you are, I would recommend that when in doubt, authenticate your items after you receive them. Or in some cases, if you're able to, you can try and authenticate items ahead of time by sending an online authenticator picture of the items that you're seeing in the listing. That way you just have some sense that the item that you are purchasing is actually authentic. And if it's not, typically for places like eBay and PayPal, you'll need to have some proof of authenticity or lack of authenticity in order to get your money back. So the first place that I do a lot of my pre-loved shopping is through Japanese resellers. Now, there are a lot of benefits for shopping through Japanese resellers. First of all, Japan is known for the fact that they have extremely strict laws against fake and counterfeit items. As such, there is a much higher chance that the items that you'll be receiving are authentic pieces. Secondly, there is just an insanely large resale and consignment market for luxury goods, as well as many other things in Japan. As such, they have a large selection of items from vintage pieces all the way up to current items that may be still available for sale in the retail boutique. Thirdly, I don't know if it's because there are so many items, but what I have found is I can often find the best deals through Japanese resellers. Right now, the Speedy Nano, which is the current version, this is the vintage version of that bag, it currently retails in Louis Vuitton, I believe, for at least $1,700. Whereas you can find beautiful, great condition mini Speedies, such as this vintage version, for like $500, sometimes even below that cost. So I believe this one was around $500, and the patina on it is beautiful. Just to note, this little bag charm is from Dress Up Your Purse. It just happens to match the patina so perfectly on this Speedy, so I usually accessorize it. I'll include the link for this below. So like I said, I really have been able to find some gems of hard to find pieces by shopping pre-loved, namely finding them through Japanese resellers. So a brand that I had never tried previously and I was just not really sure if I was willing to invest in was Prada. And I had seen this size in their current boutique. They have, it's called the Necessaire pouch, I believe. And I really liked it, but the current retail price, I believe, is $495. and I found it for $175. And what's great about this one, I believe it was a limited edition one because the zipper on this one is gold, whereas the current ones have just like a regular plastic zipper. So I feel like this one is even more beautiful and more special. So something else that I like to do is shop pre-loved, especially when it comes to some of the new re-releases that have been coming out, such as the Marc Jacobs collaboration that had all the denim pieces, or the new Murakami collection. So I love the idea of those trends, but I also knew that those weren't going to be bags that would really go with my personal style. But what I was able to do is kind of just quench that thirst for getting to be a part of that trend and collecting pieces from those releases by shopping pre-loved. So I was able to find this vintage mini agenda, and I got it right around the time that the Marc Jacobs release was happening and the denim pieces were coming out again. So I felt like I was able to be a part of the denim hype, and I absolutely love this piece, and I think it is just really pretty. But I didn't have to break the bank and buy one of their bags at the current retail prices or buy one of the SLGs that are still pretty steep. Finally, something I noticed, particularly when shopping through Japanese resellers on places like eBay, which we'll touch on in a bit, the shipping is insanely fast. Like, I would think, since for me in the United States, Japan is pretty much on the other side of the world, it would take longer for the items to get here. But I swear I can get some of these items delivered to me in a period of 3 to 4 days. And the fact that in many cases, again, particularly on eBay, the shipping prices are free. Now, I would say one of the major cons of shopping through Japanese resellers is the potential for customs fees. Now, custom fees vary depending on the country where you're currently living, but for me in the United States, the threshold, I believe at the moment, is $800. That means if you purchase an item over that dollar threshold, you may be required to pay customs fees. Now, how that works is when the item is sent to you, it'll be delivered through whatever mailing company they use, whether it's DHL or FedEx, so on and so forth. And then typically a few weeks later, you'll receive a bill in the mail from that shipping company with the total cost of processing to get the item into the country. And they also charge a little bit of a fee on top of that cost. Now, the costs vary. There's a lot of factors that go into the pricings. There are charts, I think, and places where you can calculate to get a general idea of what the cost is. But again, if you're finding items that are at an insanely good price, or is an item that is just really hard to find, sometimes it is worth paying that extra fee to get that item that you're looking for. So in terms of specific Japanese resellers that I recommend, I have worked with a number of different resellers, and any of the ones that I have worked with in collaborations, I definitely recommend. To be clear, this video is not sponsored in any way, but like I said, I have had great experience with those resellers, and so I'm happy to recommend them in the descriptions below. So since we're on the topic of Japanese resellers, I'm going to go ahead and roll into the second group that I would highlight, which is the reseller apps. And the first one that I'll touch on is eBay, because most of the purchases that I make from Japanese resellers are through eBay. So one of the biggest reasons I would think is that eBay has a huge selection. It's one of the most well-known apps for buying pre-loved things, and so there is always a large selection to choose from. Another thing I love about eBay is that you are able to shop by image. Thirdly, I love the fact that you can save searches on eBay. So if there is an item that I have on my mind, but I really haven't found it, or I haven't found it at the price I'm looking for, you can save a search and then be notified whenever that item does pop up in eBay. And finally, eBay does offer guarantees should there be any concerns about the item that you receive. If for some reason you believe and you can confirm that the item is not authentic, you can submit that to eBay and they will often take care of it for you. Also, given that you can pay through PayPal, which I strongly recommend, there's almost 2 layers then of the ability to get your money back if there was any concern. In terms of cons, I really have had great experiences shopping through eBay. I buy a lot of things given I am a collector and I am a creator. So I do have a lot of bags in my collection. I do a lot of purchasing. I have had a few experiences where I was not pleased with the item I received, and I was able to have that taken care of either directly through the seller, or if I had to get eBay involved, it was quick and painless and I was able to get my money back. So as I said, a number of the items here in this collection were ones I found on eBay, but I wanted to talk about 2 of the best deals I have found in any of my bags that are pre-loved in my collection. And that first one is this Louis Vuitton Trousse 23. So this is one of Louis Vuitton's vintage toiletry bags. And to me, I very much prefer this shape and silhouette to the Toiletry 26 series that's slim and taller. I just find that I'm able to fit the items that I need in this bag a lot more easily. Now, I have used this a lot, so it's not the cleanest anymore, but it did come in really great condition. Now, there was a defect on this that I will show you in a second, but can you believe that I got this for $88? $88. And honestly, I know I mentioned it, this is a vintage piece. The canvas on this bag is just so nice. It's thick, it's durable. I beat up this bag a lot because I use it every time I travel. I love that it's this wipeable, carefree canvas, and the interior is wipeable as well. So as I said, I think the reason this bag was so cheap was because the zipper pull was missing. And all I did was I was able to find these zipper pulls that you can just attach yourself. And so it works just fine. I haven't had any issues with it. I have heard that I can take this back to the retail store as well, and they should be willing to replace the zipper. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but if I do, I'll definitely keep you guys in the loop. Either way, this is totally functioning for me, and for $88, I thought this was such a great steal. Another vintage find is this purse that came from the Sack Shopping GM. And I think this was, it used to have a little leather tab and it was attached to that much larger bag. But I love this. It's like a skinny version of the Pochette Accessoire. And what I use this for is to carry my makeup brushes. So as you can see, it's vintage. It just has the canvas on the inside. Now, I got this for $104, which again, understanding that's still $104 for a little pouch, but for those of you luxe lovers out there, you'll understand that that was a great price for this pretty large Louis Vuitton piece. But what's great is that I can stick it inside my Trousse 23, and this fits right in there. So what I do is I put my brushes into this pouch, and then they're separated from my other makeup items. Another common place to shop for luxury items is Poshmark. Now, I don't think I have any bags that I have purchased from Poshmark any longer, but I often peruse there, and I definitely have sold things there in the past. Now, Poshmark is great in that you can definitely find a lot of luxury items there, and they do have an authentication service for any items that are $500 or above. The only thing I would say about Poshmark is that I don't find as many Japanese resellers on there, or it's harder to determine whether they are Japanese resellers. And also, I feel like the prices on Poshmark are just a little higher than other places that I've seen. I think it's because the seller fees are pretty high for Poshmark, and so people do inflate their prices accordingly to make sure they're making their profit. Another place that I have purchased smaller pre-loved items is Mercari. Now, Mercari is very similar to Poshmark and all of those types of places, but I have been able to find some gems on there. They do have an authentication process that is done online. And so some of these items here had to go through that authentication process and before they are able to post it onto that platform for sale. So I have found a few really cute Coach bag charms on Mercari, and they have so many adorable tiny little bag charms on Coach, but they tend to go fast, and often when they sell out, they don't come back into stock. So I have done a lot of hunting to find these. Sometimes when I've purchased these, they've come with like the receipt, the original packaging and everything. So I really do feel like I found some great purchases from there. Just the other one I want to highlight is this pouch. It came out of a Louis Vuitton planner of some sort. I'll include the name here. And this actually isn't sold separately. It's it came in that piece as like an insert. And so that's another great reason to shop pre-loved, because there might be a piece or an aspect of a bag that you want to buy, but you don't really want to make the entire purchase just for that one piece. So for me, this was an example of that. This is a super flat piece. It looks like the kirigami, but obviously it's very thin. This makes a perfect passport holder, or if you just want something that can carry like cards or receipts or other things that are really flat. I love slim pieces, and so I was really excited to find this. So I have one piece that I purchased through Vestaire Collective. Again, this is another pre-loved buying and selling platform. This piece did go through their authentication process as well. And I have another Dior Velvet Oblique piece that, again, I was able to compare it to. So I felt very comfortable when I received it that this is an authentic item. This is so beautiful, and this falls into the category of very rare items to find, especially in this size and shape. So I'm really excited to have this in my collection. So the last category that I personally shop from are what I would call like the major online pre-loved resellers for luxury items. And I would include in those categories Fashionphile and Rebag would probably be the two that I shop from the most. Now, if you're asking me personally, I tend to prefer Fashionphile. I have been purchasing from them for years. Again, this is not sponsored, though I have done collaborations with them in the past. But they have a lifetime guarantee on the authenticity of their bags. They go through a very stringent authentication process. I actually got to visit their flagship store in New York City. I got to see their authenticators at work looking through the items. And so I really feel like I can shop from them with absolute confidence. So I will say, when it comes to buying certain items that I don't feel very confident in assessing authenticity, I always buy them from Fashionphile. So that definitely falls into line with my Chanel pieces. I am just not a Chanel connoisseur. I don't feel like I would know the bags well enough if I came across a super fake. So knowing that I can buy Chanel pieces that are a much heavier price tag than, say, you know, my Louis Vuitton SLGs, I tend to only purchase those through Fashionphile. Then of course there's my Nana Dora, which again, like shopping pre-loved, you can find these gems. I had no idea this bag existed until I stumbled across it while perusing Fashion File. So I snatched it up after doing a little research. I love that Fashion File always provides great pictures of their bags, and they also show what the bag looks like against a mannequin so you can have a general idea of the size of the bag. But obviously do research before you make any large purchases to make sure it's the bag for you. So I got this one from Rebag, and I was so excited to find one. At the time, they were very hard to find since the denim collection had just re-released and everyone was just scooping up vintage and new pieces. But I found this one for a pretty good price. I had been shopping on eBay and a lot of other places looking for this, and Rebag had the best deal for it. Rebag often has like site-wide 15% off type sales. And so I would recommend keeping an eye out for those for when you make your purchases. So that goes the same with this Nice Nano Vanity. I had been eyeing this for the longest time, but I just couldn't get myself to spend the retail price for it. And I was able to find this one on Rebag. I think I got it for like 30 to 40% off. So I was really excited and just felt a lot better or more comfortable making that purchase because it was more in the price range that I was willing to spend on this item. In terms of cons, I wouldn't say there are too many cons about shopping through Fashion File or Rebag. They have excellent selections, but I will say I think the prices in these larger luxury reseller websites are going to be a little higher than if you were to try and do your own research and happen to stumble across it through an individual reseller on places like eBay. That said, purchasing through one of these larger resellers, I feel like does come, for me personally, with some added levels of security and confidence in my purchase. So that wraps up this video on some of my tips and tricks on where and how to shop pre-loved. I hope this was helpful for you. I know that shopping pre-loved can be a bit scary. It can be intimidating in many ways. And while there are pros and cons with shopping pre-loved as well as shopping new, I do feel like shopping pre-loved can find you some major gems at some great prices, and I will always forever be someone that is constantly perusing the pre-loved market to find my next treasure. So definitely comment below. I'd love to hear what were some of your favorite items that I shared today, or what are some of your best pre-loved finds. I love hearing about the great steals and deals that you guys have found in your luxury purchasing journey. If you have any questions about shopping pre-loved or want to learn more about some of the things I mentioned today, definitely comment below. And also let me know if you'd like me to do a part 2 on this where I go into more detail about some of the bags that I found, or if you have questions, I could definitely do a shopping pre-loved Q&A type thing where I go into more details on some of the specifics that you all want to know. As always, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to watch more of my content and see more of my bag collection and bag reviews, be sure to click here. Otherwise, bye for now.